I always talk about climate change these days. It's really got me going. The more study it, the more it becomes real. But it's a belief, Do I believe all these scientists, or the people that don't like it? It's a big change. It's really huge, and I'm not afraid of it because I don't want it. I wish it'd just go away. I have a list of things that I would talk about or do if could. First of all, EV ready wiring for everything new. Now there's codes, there's all kinds of things. Tomorrow night there's going to be something about reducing the conservation. They're going to make a new energy conservation vote, maybe with the code to reduce adding 10%. So they're still going to add a ton. So we're not ever going to do anything. We could. The technology's sitting on the shelf, but it requires a bunch of learning. It requires a whole new staff. And I tease them all about that. And that's really what it requires. So in other words, until we declare an emergency or something really drastic, that's about as drastic as, oh boy. We can't change. We can't solve problems until we realize that it is a problem. And that goes for everybody and myself too, because I don't want to do this. I'm a procrastinator. We should have done this a long time ago. And maybe it's just a cry wolf. If we just ignore it, it'll go away. Yeah, let's do that. Or we did.
Thank you. All right, planning staff and consultant, please come forth. So you will make a presentation. We will save our questions unless we're losing track of what you're saying, and then questions for clarification are welcome here. That's okay?
Okay. Maria Harris, Planning Manager. I have with me Scott Fregonesi from Fregonesi Associates. We're here to update you on the work we've done on the vertical housing development zone. We're really going to cover three things tonight. The idea of having an affordable requirement as part of a vertical housing development zone, and then a recap of the public outreach efforts we've made and the remaining steps in the process. So before I turn it over to Scott, I just wanted to quickly touch on the development of the Transit Triangle Overlay, which was the reason we did the Transit Triangle Overlay was to encourage development of a mix of housing and businesses on the bus route. And because it's close to services and shopping and schools, also hope that it would encourage also walking and bicycle trips in addition to transit trips. So that was the reason we did it. Scott and his firm, using their model, looked at the financial and physical feasibility of multi-story mixed-use buildings with housing in them under the zoning that we used to have, and we found it really forced just a small number of very large units to make it work and be developable. So we changed some of the things. We took out the density, used a floor area ratio instead to control the size of the building, allowed another story, backed off in the parking a little bit and the landscape requirements, and that's how we got the Transit Triangle. And there was a large emphasis, I'm sure the mayor and council remembers, on workforce housing, because we use those numbers for all of our modeling, 120% of median income. The council in 2015, 2017 had in the goals and objectives to look for housing opportunities in Ashlands and in places that we hadn't looked where we could specifically get workforce housing. So that's a little background on the Transit Triangle. This project was a recommendation from that project, the Transit Triangle Overlay, to look at a further incentive for encouraging those mixed-use buildings with housing. So that's where we're at now. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott to talk about the affordability piece.
Mayor and Council, thank you for having me. It's always fun to be back in Ashland, one of my favorite places in the world. So this presentation is pretty quick. About half of it is just a refresher of what we did for modeling the vertical housing